Hey guys, it's Matt. It's the Everlast sweatshirt is back. It's cold as heck here in PA in the morning, at least. I want to talk about mental health, our mental health, what we need to do to stay mentally healthy. At least this is the baby step, and we all need to be doing this. I'm really convinced of this. I'm not sure how many of us are. I'm kind of getting sick and tired of my mental state. I kind of perk up when I know I'm talking to all of you. I was just talking to a good friend of the channel on the phone, and he probably sensed I was just down. I've been down uh, too early to crack beers at night. Just like an escape. Just start drinking an IPA and light beers, and just I need to stop that. Um, this is not my ability to hope this is all going to go away. I've never said that, and it's part of a very very sick grand scheme. But the little hope that it's going to people will wake up and people will just stop wearing the mask and your neighbors will start acting a bit more normal. I hope it all happens. I really do. But I mentally I have to assume at this point, especially the way it's playing out, that it's not going to happen. And it doesn't look like it's going to happen. People taking the download, people going along with everything. So the mental the baby mental step we all have to take for mental health is this. I believe this is some sort of solution we can apply. We all need to start doing this and start walking the walk if we instead of talking the talk. And I'm sick of my mental state. I'm going to start doing this today. Relates back to attachment. All the things that this society has engineered that we all have in our lives. It's not just material things, but that's the most obvious engineering of society, to put material things so we all go along because of attachment. Now, obviously, that doesn't explain everything. There's people are basically taking a download. There's some form of mind control going on, something tactics or technology or strategy that we could only call a spell as to why people are going along with this the way they are. So there's a whole host of things we don't understand, and we'll talk about that in other videos. But one of the key ingredients in however that spell is being delivered, in my opinion, is attachment. Okay, I'll relate that around or to what I'm talking about in a moment. But let's just start from the absolute basics. All right, this is basically the mental attitude we need to get into. It stems back to Risky Business, Tom Cruise, 87, whatever, 86. The whole movie, Risky Business, is centered around the theme. Well, you know the line, most of you. Joel, sometimes you just have to say, what the F? Okay? He says the real world. Miles, who later played Booger, says this to Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise, oh, got to study, got to get into Princeton. Your parents are away, Joel. Sometimes you just have to say, and it might take 5 minutes for me to start relating all this together. So please give me ample time. I think this is very important. This is what my mental approach is going to be going forward because I'm sick of the way I'm acting. And I'm Mr. Cool, Calm, and Collected. This thing stresses me out to no end. I worry about things I shouldn't be worrying about. I'm going to what the F. I am. And sometimes you fake it to make it. I'll probably say I'm going to say what the F, and then I won't. But then I'm going to just keep doing it. Eventually, it'll start showing up. So the whole theme of Risky Business, Joel, your parents are away. Miles, who later played Booger, puts hand on his shoulder. Joel, sometimes you just have to say what the F. What the F, the ability to say it, not care. Like, F it. I'm going to have fun. Joel, that gives you freedom. Freedom breeds opportunity. Opportunity leads to this, blah, blah, blah. All right. Now, we'll get back to the Risky Business truth drop in a few minutes. So the ability to not care gives you freedom. No doubt about it. I have certain friends in my life that they just, they'd be like, I don't do what you want. I don't care. Where I was at the time, where like, well, I would care what that person thinks, and this person could talk to this girl, and then she might not. The people, some people I've met, very few, are like, I don't care. Do what you want. It doesn't affect me. Just going to go about my life. That what the F gives you freedom. Now, what the ability to say F it is the last thing that this reality and the minions of this reality and this society wants. Right? There's many ways it locks you in so you can't say what the F. Keeping up with the Joneses, things like that. But the most obvious way it's done this, the reality itself. Now, somebody asked me a week ago, what does that mean? It just means it's not. It's too simple to say to point to anybody, a minion or a group of politicians or a secret group, and they all seem to work as separate units for something much larger that stands over the reality itself, that is intent on having a human being degrade and devolve itself. Okay, we're not going to go down there. We've talked about that many times. The most obvious way it gets you where you can't say F it. You have to go along. You have to comply. You have to care what the Joneses think. Oh, the keeping up with the Joneses is through attachment. Okay, the most obvious way society and the reality itself has engineered attachment is through material possessions and the holding of wealth, for example. That's what, in my opinion, all these retirement commercials for 30, 40 years, it's all part of it without any of them specifically or individually being in on it. But the most obvious spectacle or way that the reality itself has bred attachment, and it has you attach to the not just material parts of this world, but social status, things like that. But let's just talk about one example of thousands of ways the reality wants you attached and caring about certain aspects of your life, not wanting to lose, fear of loss. Fear of loss gets you to comply with almost everything. It's the home appreciation bubbles and the Home Depot and Lowe's and home improvement wave that went along with that throughout the started in the mid 90s. So if you just won't understand this if you're under age 35, but you bought a house in the 70s or 80s or even early part of the 90s, all this Home Depot, Lowe's stuff, all this fixing up the house all the time. Oh, what should we do with our kitchen? New kitchens, new bathrooms, new renovations, improvements, contractors everywhere. This just didn't exist. All right, it didn't exist. There were no Home Depot, Lowe's. We had this thing called Heckinger's, which was a hardware store that got bigger and bigger and started to sell other things. When you bought a house, you bought, you wanted certain things. If you had a good amount of money, you'd say let's buy a house with a game room. Downstairs there's a pool table or a pool. You bought it. You didn't just think that I'm going to buy something and just have contractors come in and out. That's the way it is now. Have contractors come in and out for 10 years. You just kind of bought it and lived in it. That was it in the 70s, 80s, 90s. There were all these contractors going all over, and I'm going to tie this back to what the reality itself is out to accomplish, how the whole society has been socially engineered in this regard. You just like, well, what contractors are out there in the late 70s? You know, plumber, need a plumber, you call a plumber. You need an electrician, you call an electrician. There's some handymen. And yes, if you wanted to put an addition on the house, it happened from time to time. The mother-in-law suite, and there was some contractors to do it. But you go into Home Depot or Lowe's between 8 a.m. and noon, Monday through Friday, there's 30, 40 contractor vans and trucks. This just didn't exist. So I'm saying, if anybody's getting bored, I'm saying this is actually part of the social engineering, in my opinion. Actually, this all goes along with the boom and bust home appreciation cycle, all managed, all by design, all likely planned out in its evil ways, its evil genius, 50 years or plus in advance. Home appreciation, that's where it all came from. Home appreciation, it would go up 5%, but if we put in a new kitchen and bath, we can get 15, 20%. Investment properties, flipping, all of this stuff. How the reality does this is mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. But I'm telling you, for anybody stumbling upon this video, it's more unnatural and planned and engineered than it is just the natural evolution of society. What you believe is the natural evolution of a society almost never is. All right? Now they're not perfect. They can't control every little aspect of it, but they can point the Titanic in the right direction, and you think people just did that on their own, and no, it was pointed in that direction for you. And to me it all relates back to all this. My friend was in the insurance business with me in the late '90s. Got married, shortly after, and then bought a house outside of Pittsburgh. And just like you probably have done this yourself, or you're immediately the home has to be renovated. The Home Depot, the Lowe's, the contractor. She put in a $60,000 kitchen. She put in a $60,000 kitchen. Now he was like he couldn't push back. They're divorced now. It was a disaster. But I have to have the 6 burners, the new unit. She had to have hot boiling water on demand. Boiling water on demand. It just was always there. RU, reverse osmosis filter, blah, blah, all this. Oh, event. All the when you flame broil your Whopper, the smoke has to go up and be vented directly. 60 grand. Of course, he was unable to push back on this succubus he was married to dictate all this. But all this shit, this didn't happen. You bought a house in '84, you moved in, that was it. Maybe new carpet, okay. Although, call a carpet guy. All these contractors. So it's all by, this is one, to tie it into the main theme, which is breaking of attachment, mental health. This is one of 1,000 ways that the reality itself breeds attachment onto people and fear of loss. All right? If you've just done all this work, and I'm not just, I know I'm focused here, but there's so many other ways it does this to us, but let's just stay here. So if you've done all this work to your house, but you then have a new level of attachment to your house. Now, it's not just about the money. It's also if you've put sweat equity into it and done things yourself. I've done so many things to this house, mostly out of necessity, like repairing the chimney last week. But I've done so much. It's like I've my piece of myself is in it. I'm attached to it because I get attached to things too much anyway. Like the cardboard box that my cat sat on a few times. It's like, oh, okay, I don't think I should throw that out. She might want to sit on it. I get sentimental, like try to, as I put it in the recycle, shed a tear. No, not really. But we have this new level of emotions flowing out because of the situation real people are in now. I talked about that at the end of the 2 videos back. But see, if society has engineered a situation on people where we are attached, and it's not just material possessions, fear of loss of anything, fear of loss of social standing, fear of loss of social standing through your children's interaction with other children or other families. It's bred all of this. That's why what the 2 examples about the mask I'll give, and then the good friend of the channel I spoke to earlier today. Mine was I saw over a 4-week period when I went in to go to Wawa, the convenience store. A 4-week period, a few masks, and then a few more the next week. 3 weeks in was all masks. 3 weeks in March in Pennsylvania. 3 weeks. If you live in a part of the country where people don't, well, that's good for you. Northeast blue state is, it's like Australia to it, not quite, but it's horrible. It's like California. And then I'm the only one without 3 weeks in, and the 4th week I go in without, and they move to remove me. So this happens in 4 weeks. Okay. The example the friend of the channel gave was about football games. Going football game, watching a high school football game, people sitting away from each other. Once you get in, you walk in with the mask, but then 70% of the people in the stands took it off and watched the game. And 3 weeks later, it was flip-flopped. 70% sitting there for 2 hours watching the game with the mask on. 3 weeks, flip-flopped. All right, how the heck is this possible? How is this possible? And it's not just because of fear of attachment. This is just one of 1,000 ways this evil genius reality works, or works us over. So it's only possible if there is some sort of basically people taking the download. It's a mechanism, techniques, a technology we don't understand, a magic or a black magic we don't understand, we never will understand. Facilitated by 5G, or just, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about speculating. There's no point in speculating in all of it. We know there's something going on. It's like a firmware update or a carrier wave that people are. I saw regarding the Mandela effect. I've seen people take the download. I've seen them give 5 answers a certain way and change their answers basically by getting a firmware up download. I've seen it. 2 minutes later, Matt, I'd like to change all my answers. You just took a download. Yes, they did to some degree. Reality, they realize the reality has been reset. They reset themselves to it. Andy moved to the new reality. Okay, this is happening. Okay, it's how it's happening, the strategies, the techniques, the magic, we don't know, but it's happening. However, how it relates to what I'm talking about now is, for one, why don't you take the download? Why don't I take the download? And the reality needs to put people in that, maybe it's like a sine wave frequency. I don't know. I'm just this. Who knows how it works? But we're somewhere else. We're not on that frequency. And for Andy to drop, it needs for Andy to take the download. It has to be on this level of frequency, right? And all I'm saying is, how does the reality, working through its minions, put people on the frequency or the level where they're susceptible to download, or they're going to take the download, or they're going to follow the suggestion, or whatever society recommends, or whatever Governor Wolf recommends? How do they put people there? And I'm saying there's no doubt about it, in my opinion now. One of the ways they put people here to be susceptible to the suggestion or whatever is through attachment, through fear of attachment. So if you have this tremendous fear of attachment, you will lower you, and not just that. They hit us with 1,000 different techniques. This is just one technique that became clear to me. Basically, this morning when talking to the good friend on the channel, after sitting there saying why my mental state is so horrible and how I need to improve it, and we all need to improve it. So it hits you with 1,000 different pinprints, but one is the fear of attachment. So you could say that when my friend went back to the football game, one of the reasons, amongst many, one of the reasons they were all now complying 3 weeks later with the masks, sitting there watching the football game with it on for 2 hours, one of the ways they were now taking the download is because of fear of the attachment, or fear of loss. And not, again, in this case, not necessarily loss of material wealth buildup. That's what, in my opinion, all these retirement commercials and the whole retirement strategy is all about. Fear of loss creates a situation where you comply. The opposite of risky business. What the F? All right, we'll get back to that. So one of the examples he used was, there was a news, for the first game, the news vans came out and covered, not the high school game, but covered how people weren't wearing their masks. And then that resonated, or went out through social media, made its way around, was on the local news, or wasn't the biggest story in the world. But people then, 3 weeks later, now they're all wearing their masks watching the game. How do you change a whole mentality of a group of people in 3 weeks? Okay, it's some sort of download black magic or technology we don't understand. We got that. But for them to be susceptible to it, it comes with a fear of loss, or an attachment. In this case, they're attached to their social standing. They're attached to wanting to think this person really looks up to them. This person thinks they're cool. This person looks forward to seeing them when they go down to the hardware store. Just keeping up a social standing and not wanting to lose that social standing is a fear of loss. It's an attachment. Now again, guys, the reality in its evil genius socially engineers this stuff over a long period of time. It is not natural. Right, but that's I'm not going to go into that too much, and it's not the purpose of this video. So what we need to do, and this is baby steps to keep our mental shit together, is obvious. Let's take it back to risky business. Joel, parents are away. Sometimes you just have to say, what the F? Stop caring so much about getting into Princeton. What the F gives you freedom. What the F breeds opportunity. Opportunity brings this. And no doubt about it, sometimes you got to fake it to make it. You got to keep saying we have to just not care as much about what's going on. Fear of loss. And one way we can't just jump in to say, yeah, you're right. As of now, F it. I don't care what my neighbors think. I don't care whatever. You can't. It might take many months to get into that state. And even you might never want to just get into what the F, like Miles in Risky Business and Booger in Risky Business and Joel Goodson. This is Zara moving across now. Zara, you want to get on my lap? Here we go. So it might take months to get into that. Okay, it might take months to really get into that. But the way to start getting into that is to look at all the ways that you have a fear of attachment. And at the very minimum, not add to that list. Just keep the list steady, not add to it, and look to cut as much as you can to simplify your life. Okay. For example, it's a bad example, but somebody like was just about to, oh, in this situation, let's just put the new addition on the house and let's just work around the house. And do you want to take that on? Do you want another laundry list of things to do? It brings more, the home value goes up, but then there's more to lose. I think it's time to do everything we can to simplify, everything to just mentally keep our shit together. Anything you look at in your life that says, is this going to bring a fear of loss? A fear of loss is society breeding attachment. If your home value goes up, whether you're aware of it or not, you will fear to lose it more. Somebody living in a van, I don't know if Wit's still doing van life or whatever. In many ways, he doesn't have certain things obviously as somebody in a home with 3 or 4 bedrooms and kids and all this stuff going on. But I'll tell you what, in a lot of ways, he is so much more free, and because he doesn't have the societal attachment. And the societal attachment has been bred into people and bred into society by design and on purpose for decades now. The social engineering and planning is absolutely mind-boggling. So eventually, we have to get into more of the what the F. Just, I've had friends that just I was took everything so seriously, and I had to get all the good grades, even into Penn State. And it's like some friends were like, who cares? Or this friend was going to not do this, or he was going to say to these girls, we're not going to invite you to this party, and I'd be worried about that. And I had friends that were like, do what you want. I don't care, and they didn't care. Okay, so I mean, this breeds that what the F brings opportunity. What the F gives you freedom. All right, it does. Sorry, don't step on the keyboard. Okay. So you just can't get there overnight, though. You cannot get there overnight. You have to start small, and you have to start saying what. I'm not only going to take on more things that could lead to attachment. I have to cut. I have to cut as much as possible over a 3 or 4 month period. And you can't get rid of your kids. Of course, worrying about your kids and the livelihood of your family, of course, it's huge. That's a tremendous attachment that is not negotiable. You can't really, but what else? What can you do? Even something simple like, we're going to the old car runs fine. We're going to get the new lease, and then we have to change the insurance and more things on the list. And society breeds, it breeds being busy. It breeds a laundry list of things to do. Simplicity as a first step into getting into a mental state of like, what the F, and I'm so tired of my own mental state. I'm going to get there. It might take a while. I'm eventually going to get there. And is the risky business, is it actually a truth drop put there? It could, the way this reality operates, it could be. It doesn't mean the writers or directors of Risky Business in the 80s went to the Illuminati window and are in on it. Sometimes it flows, truth of this world flows through art. There are retrocausalities that where something is influenced in a certain way because of what will happen in the future. And I didn't say they went to the Illuminati window and got a card that said make sure you base a whole movie around what the F. But here's for anybody rolling their eyes at that or scoffing at that. I'd like to remind you that Tom Cruise. This is the Eyes Wide Shut. By the way, Howdy McCoskey does a really incredible breakdown of the symbolism of Eyes Wide Shut. Kubrick, Eyes Wide Shut. Tom Cruise is chosen. See, when that happens, you kind of pay attention and say, "Oh, I didn't really realize," but Tom Cruise playing that role and Vanilla Sky, it puts him right there with Tom Hanks and just a few others as the major Illuminati puppet message deliverer. Well, Matt, he might be that way now, but Risky Business is just some kid. No, no. See, the way they do business is that you pretty much bred for it, in my opinion. They know, they just know probably, like Miley Cyrus, whatever she's doing now, bred for it. Mouseketeers or it's all they have it. It's not like, well, they were probably normal back then. Not when you get to a certain level. It's almost like from birth, because of the constellation or whatever they were born in, the astrology, their birth astrology. They're bred for it, the way this creepy system does business. So because Tom Cruise was in Eyes Wide Shut, I'm not going to look back at Risky Business and say, it's just a kid. There's nothing there. No, that's not the way they do business. Now, what was there was a football movie or something before that with Tom Cruise? Am I gonna, if he was in the Mouseketeers, am I gonna analyze every little thing he did at 14 years old? No. At some point, he has to train himself to be an actor, and no, there's going to be some movies that don't mean a lot. Somebody's yelling at their screen right now saying, "Well, Cold Trickle, that the race car driver, NASCAR, he." Hey, don't be so sure that that's not all part of the grand scheme and design on Tom Cruise. This is where Nicole Kidman, very creepy connections from Australia. Nicole Kidman. This is where Nicole Kidman is introduced. So even though it's a movie that Matt, that's a movie that means nothing, whatever. Yeah, it's all part of what Tom Cruise is being set up to be, to deliver creepy messages from the Illuminati window. So, this is the Nicole Kidman introduction. They're together in Eyes Wide Shut. Matt, they couldn't have it planned out that far in advance. They just made a movie they just make some money. Nope. That ain't how these creepy bastards do business. It ain't. It's all, if you think it's planned 10 years out, it's probably 20 years out. If you think it's 20, it's probably 40. If we think it's 50, it's probably 100. But see, we've made the mistake. You can't go far. We never go far enough. We thought like the 7-Eleven was a part-time job. That thing. We came to the conclusion about 6 or 7 years ago that there's some creepy things going on here that's almost like reality breakdowns, things we can't really understand, things that just don't add up if the laws of physics apply. So we thought if we would have assigned a creepiness meter to it, then we would have said, okay, it's a 5 out of 10 on the creepiness meter. But what do we have today? We have a 10 out of 10 on the creep, or a 9 out of 10. This is creepier. This is a 10 out of 10. We have a 9 out of 10 on the creepy meter. So once again, we never, ever go far enough. We've never gone to a place in the truth community where we said, okay, in terms of wackiness, creepiness, things, reality breakdowns, their ability to manipulate and control and move consciousness. We in analyzing this, we thought it was a 10 out of 10 initially, and now they didn't have as much control, and we're going to back off it, and they really weren't able to do that to people, and we're going to back off it to 4 or 5. No, we always think it's this, and then it turns out to be this. So let's stop making the same mistake. Let's stop making the same mistake in terms of creepy messages or Tom Cruise being set up to be probably his entire life has been bred. Okay, I'm not gonna make that mistake. I'm gonna err on the side of going far enough, at least, or even too far, because we've never gone too far, and see where that leads. But yeah, so you have whatever the reason is. Joel puts his hand. Sometimes you just have to say what the f. And I wouldn't even probably be mentioning it if it wasn't for the line after. What the f gives you freedom, right? Freedom. This is, you can't. That goes part and parcel with it, hand in hand with it. Okay, so what is that? Okay, Tom Cruise and Eyes Wide Shut, Vanilla Scott. I'm gonna pay attention to that. And if I can't figure that, we should be able to figure that for ourselves. That just our whole lives we have these tethers of attachment. And so you obviously we can't just get to Joel's what the f overnight. Even in the movie he doesn't get there overnight. Where does he start? Take the car out for the joyride, right? And just start his own hooker and whore operation over, and just take the car out. Small steps. There weren't that many steps, Matt, between the car and the hookers. It's a movie. It's a 2 hour. They can't. But you understand what I'm saying. Small steps. The ultimate goal for all of us has to be in a state where we're not going to be about what the F with our family or our pets or our kids, but in every other way, we're going to be smart with our house. If it had an old roof that could leak, yeah, it's time to get the reshingle. But in other ways, redo that bathroom. What the F? Does the sink work? Does the toilet flush? Who gives a F? It's one more thing on my list, one more thing to keep up with. Simplify, simplify, simplify every day. What's an attachment I can cut today? Mental way to deal with this thing. And what's an attachment I can cut? Well, I'm involved in this club or get together with these guys. Remember the guy in old school? He wanted in the fraternity. Hey, Mitch, I hear you guys started. They're like 38 years old. I hear you guys started a frat. No. Come on, man. Don't blackball me. I want in. He's like, that's a pathetic guy from The Office. He's like, I don't do anything fun, man. I play golf every other weekend with guys from work, and I hate golf. He's like, that's all people. So it's like, yeah, well, you're not. This guy, if he was listening to this, like, you know what? I kind of out of obligation play golf. I hate it. This guy always puts pressure on me during the golf. Then they want to bet money, and then I get more stressed out. F it. I'm not playing golf with these guys anymore. Now that's a baby step tie to cut, a baby set way to simplify your life, but it has to be done by all of us at this point for our mental health. But this guy in the golf crew, he's like the master of ceremonies over all my other friends, and then I could have problems with other friends because this guy's the big cheese. Who gives a flying F? Then get rid of all of them. Find other friends. Who cares? I gotta be So this is just one little baby step to Tom Cruise's, what the F gives you freedom, and fake it to make it. Fake it to make it. Whenever you can, just I don't care. Is it gonna add to my list of things? Then I ain't doing it. I ain't doing it. No, I'm cutting the ties. That doesn't mean sell the house, go live in a cardboard box or whatever. That's simplicity. But just slowly move towards this. And one of the main reasons to move towards this again is to not care about the reality. Wants you to be so worried and so stressed, and the reality itself dictates this. Stressed and worried, and I watched a few videos just this morning and last night, and it's always a certain part of the world is going into a lockdown. Another one might be coming out a little bit, but another lockdown. You know what? At this point, again, we are on the creepy plane. It's at altitude. It ain't going back to the terminal. The creepy crypt keeper is up there. Just put the damn seat back. If everybody wants to, I just don't care. All right? I don't. And honestly, I will, like I said, just keep my ear to it or watch some news for the sake of the channel, for the sake of refining my predictions, which is one of my responsibilities here. But if it's you or whatever, just completely cut it off. Completely cut it off. Go in somewhere. Oh, now I need a mask to do this. Well, if you want to do it, put it on. Don't give it any power. Don't give it any energy. There's not. I'm always looking for ways like, what can I send my friends in terms of to have them see how artificial this all is, to wake them up. I'm always thinking like, what can I send my friends today to get them to see through how this is being so strategically orchestrated, and society is being pushed, and consciousness is being pushed into a darker I don't give a F anymore. I'm not gonna, if they don't see it, F them. And sorry, Ken, if you're watching, I don't mean that the way you understand what I'm saying. If you don't see it by now, Ken, if you're watching, I want to maintain friends or whatever, but I ain't going to try to wake you up anymore, big guy. All right? It's so obvious to some of us. I'm just not going to do it. And this is, again, a pathetic little baby step to get into the true person that's like, what the F brings me freedom. Matt, they're locking down, not Melbourne now, but Sydney. I don't care. I just don't care. Withdrawing everything from it, every bit of energy, other than what I need to do my profession to put food on the table. And of course, no Twitter, no Facebook. Yes, and it means a whole lot less YouTube videos. And if it means my channel, so be it. It's the only way to go about it mentally. And guys, again, the good news in the end is on several fronts. Okay, it's hard to find good news. Trust me. I mean, it's difficult mentally right now on all of us. But one, per the creepy astrology of how they do business, they can't keep their pedal to the metal on steroids all the time. It can't just pedal the metal, goes down full RPMs, and they're just going to go full RPMs for the rest of our life. I don't believe things are cyclical. They don't work like that. They can't work like that per their weird astrology. They're probably trying to harden as much cement as possible before the solstice, the conjunction, where supposedly Saturn takes control from Jupiter. According to Levet, their astrology is based around Jupiter and Mercury, the age of empire. Saturn, according to Levet, has been demonized. Saturn, that's just Satan. She would say that's dumbed down, man. It's being demonized, and I don't know much about astrology, but I can see that they don't scratch their nose without looking to their constellations and their stars and what Sirius is doing, and you cannot be Sirius, and it's all by design. I don't know how they pull half the shit off, but they can't keep pedal the metal down forever. They can't. So, there's a lot. But what seems to be happening, like I've said before, is the cement is wet and it's hardening, and they want to harden it up at least through the conjunction, the solstice, the winter solstice, December 21st, or potentially to the next eclipse, which isn't until the 2024, I believe. So, but at least this is like a mini waypoint now, or it's everything. It's either everything, but it's significant to them. Put it that way in terms of hardening this cement. And do you ever, when you're driving a car, you on a road, we've all kind of done this for some reason. You get up to a certain point, like I'm just going to get to the stop sign, get to 50. Well, that's a bad example. Not a stop sign. Say a sign that says "Watch Children." We have these signs that say "Watch Children" in Pennsylvania, and then at that sign, you put it in neutral, or you completely take off the gas, or probably put it in neutral to see if you can coast to the next place. And in my opinion, this is the way they have to operate. That's Zara through their astrology. They can go, harden the cement, and then at some point they have to place society and consciousness into a certain trajectory. They have to put society and consciousness into a trajectory where they have to release the gas. They have to put it in neutral. But it's like their image of how they tell us space works. You put constant mental reinforcement. Elon, lone scum, and his ex SpaceX nonsense told us how they put a roadster into an orbit around Mars. And of course, space isn't what they present to us. But the point is, you get something moving, and then you put it into a trajectory where then it carries itself forward. And they can't keep pedal to the metal, but they'll do all they can to the point where the cement hardens to put consciousness or where society's going into a trajectory, moving it into a certain place where it's gained enough breakaway speed that there is no turning it. The Titanic cannot be turned in time to not hit the iceberg. And this, with the way Levet would describe the end of one age, or the conjunctions, setting up the next 20 years for the next conjunction, setting up the next 20 years, putting that right at the sign, putting the car in neutral, and having enough momentum and velocity and mass where you can coast to the next waypoint without applying the gas again. Now, if we would realize our own power and enough people stood up and say, "I will not comply," then it would be like throwing a wrench into the gears, and the whole car would come to a stop. I mean, they'll do it using their whatever techniques they have, whatever dark magic they have. Then the momentum of it has to be maintained on its own by real consciousness, or what people believe. And so far, I don't even want to put that out that they're doing. I guess there's no other way to say it. They have the momentum right now that they want, in my opinion. It doesn't mean all hope is lost. Of course, they put my entire state of Pennsylvania into a mask in 4 weeks. 4 weeks. Don't if you live outside of Harrisburg or something, of course there's pockets, but around the cities, 4 weeks. 4 weeks where they would move to remove you or something. I mean, it's incredible. So the cement is still wet. And remember, when you do these mental exercises to cut attachment, simplify your life, adopt the what the F whenever you can, because what the F brings freedom. When you do this, please remember or manifest this, that even if they pushing the Titanic into a certain place, the momentum of it is, and it's just the Titanic, and it is going to carry itself forward. That doesn't mean that you can't put yourself or put a protective bubble around yourself, or a protective Merkaba around yourself, where, all right, they're hardening the cement on society and on consciousness pretty successfully, just to keep saying it with the intention that this is not happening to me. This is, I guess you could say in one way, I'm in this Titanic because I'm in this reality. The Titanic is being, the whole world is moving in a certain trajectory or in a certain place because of what's happening. But I can't get off the Titanic. But I am not going to be. The cement will not be hardened on me. Absolutely. Just keep saying I have my own reality bubble in which I operate. And very smart people would say that that's all that matters. I mean, you can people very smart people would say no matter where they take society into the horrible, lower, degraded place, there's always the potential for a real person to create a bubble of heaven inside of this for themselves. And there's no, they just can't flush everybody down the tubes. Now, I'm good at identifying what should be done, or the best approaches to take, but sometimes I've told you I'm not good at walking the walk. I need to do more of this myself. I need to put more of this stuff into practice, which I'm not always good at. I'll make a video and say I know this is what we should be doing, and then I'll end the video and go downstairs and start cracking light beers, and try to and just completely veg out with some dumbass movie. Just because it's been very difficult on me mentally, being in the middle of this, doing videos sometimes 5 times a week. You know, people saying, "Man, I'm not taking a day off. I'm not taking a day off till this, whether yay or nay, this thing plays out." And I think I'm going to keep going. But that doesn't mean I'm in this. I'm in the middle of this big time, of course, and it's very mentally difficult on me. But that doesn't mean you can't really move to check out. And if it means not watching me very much, well, so be it. Do it. We need to check out. Watching the YouTube videos, especially if they're geared toward fear and worry and stress and another lockdown. This is just all more ties that bind into this event, when we should be doing everything we can to simplify and cut attachment. Thanks, guys.